Sentinel Sports Central beginning every college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up in the SEC in Week 13, and this is going to be between Georgia and South Carolina, and this is going to be a big matchup here, especially for Georgia on one side because the Bulldogs actually are still in contention to possibly win the SEC East. They just got to win out and possibly hope that Florida loses a couple of games. For South Carolina on their side, they're 2-6 right now. But kind of a rough season for the Gamecocks, but they definitely still can end this season on a high note, in which this could be a big game for South Carolina. This could be a huge win for them, beating a top 10 team if they're able to do so. But that being said, we're going to be going over a full game preview and prediction on this one here today, starting out with your team trends. And of course, Georgia beat Mississippi State 31-24 last week. Good win there. Well, I wouldn't say it was a good win. I mean, it was pretty close considering Mississippi State really is not that good of a team, but still wins a win. 31-24 was their final score there. Meanwhile, for South Carolina, they lost to Missouri 10-17. Rough loss there for South Carolina because, Missouri is not really all that special of a team. So, but in the end, South Carolina has just been a rough go-at-it, especially for the past month. They are on a 4-game losing streak right now, and they are 2-6. So they definitely need a big win to try to get themselves back on track because it's kind of a tough situation that South Carolina is in right now. Well, for Georgia, they're 5-2, top 10 team in the nation at number 9, and they've got a 1-game winning streak going. This game is going to be on Saturday, November 28th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern in Columbia, so South Carolina will be your home team here. Spread currently says Georgia by 21.5. ESPN FPI's got Georgia 89%, and then the biggest prediction is also going with the Bulldogs, 39-20 being the current projected final score there. So all three sources are going with Georgia in this game, which is not much of a surprise considering Georgia is a much more talented team and they're playing a lot better right now. Here's your stat comparison for this game. Georgia's got 29 points per game so far this season on average, 21 points allowed. They got 236 passers a game, 149 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, they got 273 passing and then 74 rushing. So this Georgia rush defense has actually been really good all season long. 74, that is a very good number there for, especially, through 7 games. That's a pretty good number there for Georgia. For South Carolina, they got 25 points per game, 34 points allowed. They got 196 passers a game, 162 rush yards. And then for yards allowed, they got 277 passing and 166 rushing. So South Carolina certainly isn't quite as good statistically as Georgia is, but then again, Georgia is a much more talented team. They've got great recruiting, and all around that's been the main reason why there's such a talented team here. But if you look at this rush defense, that is going to be that's going to be a tough thing to face if you're South Carolina here, because South Carolina this season has actually been pretty good on the run. You got Harris, of course, who's got over 870 yards on the season, 13 touchdowns is what he's had. So he's had a great season for South Carolina. And the thing is that he's probably South Carolina's best player on their offense. And the problem is for South Carolina is, this Georgia rush defense, once again, is excellent. They're extremely great at stopping the run. So for Georgia, as long as they can stop the run, I think they'll be just fine here on Saturday. But, another thing that's kind of a messy situation is Georgia's quarterback situation, because you got Stetson Bennett, of course, who's been your starting quarterback for the majority of the season, but you put in JT Daniels last week just to see kind of how he did, which, he didn't have a terrible game against Mississippi State there, but, it's a weird situation there because you got two quarterbacks who definitely aren't Heisman contending quarterbacks as of now, but two quarterbacks that are pretty good in general, and that can lead a team to a good season. So it's kind of a weird situation there, but it's kind of a weird situation for South Carolina too. You got Hill, of course, at quarterback, 1,400 yards is what he's had, 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So all around, Hill's been a decent quarterback. It's just the touchdown interception ratio that has been kind of a backbreaker for him. Same thing for Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett's had some troubles with that as well, throwing 6 interceptions through 8 touchdowns, which really is not a very good ratio. But in the end, both teams I still think are pretty good on offense. It's just a matter of Georgia right now. Their rushing defense is really good, and I think that's going to come to really good uses against South Carolina in this matchup. Here's some key points for this one, though. Georgia is still in contention for the SEC East, believe it or not. Even though they did lose to Florida a couple of weeks back, that was on November 7th when they lost 44-28. I still think Georgia is in contention. Florida, if you think about it, Florida definitely is a top team in the nation right now. They're 6-1 in the conference. Georgia's 5-2 in the conference, so basically Georgia's got to win 2 games, and Florida's got to lose 2 in order for Georgia to even have a chance. But, as crazy of a football season as it has been, really anything can happen. And for Georgia, they just got to keep winning now. This is a must-win game for Georgia if they're thinking about making it to a good bowl game into the SEC championship, which, once again, it still is very possible. It's just you got to have some help. Florida yeah, Florida's got to lose a couple of games for Georgia to get in, but I still think, I mean, yeah, Georgia's just got to win out at this point. That's really all they can do. But for South Carolina, this could be a big win for them too. I mean, even though they really are out of contention for a bowl game or for the SEC championship by any means, I definitely think South Carolina could use a big win here. I mean, this could be big, building some momentum going into the 2021 season, which, I mean, that's kind of a trend. Usually, I mean, if you end a season well, the next season's pretty good. So for South Carolina, that's going to be their best goal right now, is because, I mean, the season's coming to an end, especially for South Carolina within a couple of weeks. So, yeah, you got to consider that too. But this is a crucial game, especially for Georgia. Once again, I mean, if Georgia loses this one, that probably bumps them all the way into outside of the top 20 for the rankings. So that is not a good look for them. And also, that really, I mean, that's their third loss on the season through 8 games. Yeah, that would be a terrible loss there for Georgia. But for South Carolina, once again, long-term implications are at risk for them. But do expect lower scoring here. I do think we see a very defensive game between both of these teams. And even though both defenses are really good, especially for Georgia. But I think in the end, we're going to see a lower scoring one here. 24-10 is going to be your final score. We're going to see the Bulldogs get a win, but I think it's going to be pretty close, especially in the first half. We're going to see a 10-7 halftime score with the Bulldogs leading. Once again, in the final, I think Georgia's rush defense and Georgia's defense holds South Carolina to only a field goal in the second half. Georgia takes off and gets a win, 24-10, once again being the final score. So it's going to be a pretty good win for the Bulldogs in the end, even though it's a low-scoring one. Probability is going to be 70% towards Georgia. So I do think it is pretty likely that we see Georgia win this one, but there is still that little chance in there that South Carolina does pull an upset. But once again, Georgia, I'm pretty confident in this team. I think they get the win in the end. But do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know your score predictions, all of that in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. But then again, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it, subscribe as well, as it's very appreciated. But then again, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more. I'll see you all later.